Hello and welcome to the Past Functional Skills video solutions for the Edexcel Functional Skills English Level 2 Reading Practice Paper 1. Before watching this video, make sure that you've read the 3 sources in the insert and you've attempted to complete the paper yourself. Question 1. Your friend wants to know how much time different groups of people spend watching scheduled TV. According to text A, how much time do each of the following age groups spend watching scheduled TV? So here we want to look at text A and we want to find out how much time these age groups have been watching scheduled TV. So we want to look for 16 to 24-year-olds being mentioned in the text and over 65-year-olds. So if we have a quick scan through the text, we can see that 16 to 24-year-olds are mentioned here and they watched 114 minutes. And then over 65s watched 344 minutes per day. So the answers are 114 and 344. Question 2. Which word best describes the style of text A? So here we need to find what the style of text A is. So here we're going to decide the meaning of each of the words and we're going to choose which one best suits the sort of overall style, the tone of the text. And we can use a dictionary if we don't know what some of these words mean. So if we have a read through text A, we want to get an overall feel for what kind of style the text is written in. And is the text urgent? Needs to happen as soon as possible? No, not really. It's not particularly urgent. It talks about people watching TV and it says that this is a problem, but it doesn't say that it's an urgent problem. It doesn't say that it needs to be resolved right now. Is the text irritated? Well, no, not really. It's not particularly angry that people are watching TV. Is the text impartial? Yes, the text is impartial. It says that there are negatives of watching TV, but it's really communicating these in a way that is not really supporting one side or the other. It's just communicating people's opinions, like expert Dr. Micah Gari, and it's saying that what children and young people expect. It's talking about other people and giving their opinions rather than giving an overall opinion itself. So it's quite a balanced, impartial account. Is it pessimistic? That means sort of negative, expecting the worst. Well, no, it's quite neutral. It does lean towards being slightly negative, but overall it is an impartial style of text. Question 3. Which 2 of these quotations from text A are examples of formal language? So here we want to find 2 quotations from text A and we want to be looking for formal language. Now the difference between formal and informal, a formal text, it's the kind of thing that you'd hear a newsreader say it would be used in a professional environment. Whereas an informal text, that's the kind of text that you would see when friends are communicating with each other, and it would use sort of slang terms and language that isn't proper English, slightly less formal. So let's find the formal ones. There is an escalating gap. Well, escalating is a particularly sophisticated word. You probably wouldn't say that when you're with your friends. So that is an example of formal language. B can be up with the latest series. Now, up with is a shortened sort of slang way of saying that they are caught up with the series. So that would be informal language. It's a shortened version. C, chilling together in front of a TV show. Well, chilling is a particularly informal term. You wouldn't hear a newsreader say that people are chilling. D, they don't want people to hang about. Again, hang about is an informal phrase. You would probably say that to friends and family. You wouldn't say it if you were writing an important business email, that kind of thing. And then finally, many people also use individual devices. Well, there's no slang terms in there and it's quite formal overall. Question 4. You've been asked to add subheadings to each paragraph in text A. Number each subheading from 1 to 5 to show which best matches each paragraph. 2 have been done for you. So in this question, we need to find the subheading that matches each paragraph. And the way to do that is we're going to read each subheading and read each paragraph and see which ones match up most effectively. So the first one, effects on family life. We know this is paragraph number 5. So if we have a look at paragraph 5, we see that the effect of family life is talked about here. It mentions family chilling, parents and carers. So it explains how family life has changed. Changes to viewing habits. Well, paragraph 1 talks about lots of changes to viewing habits. For example, teenagers and children are watching far fewer television programmes at the scheduled time of broadcast than they were 10 years ago. Impact of new services. What have new services done? Well, paragraph 3 says that on-demand and streaming services have transformed the way people watch, and then we get a bit more about the impact there, explaining that binge watching has become the norm now. Differences according to age is paragraph 2, explaining that there is an escalating gap between the viewing habits of younger and older people. And finally, we have use of digital devices, which is paragraph number 4. So talking about laptops, tablets, smartphones and other devices. So for each paragraph, we've selected a subheading that accurately summarises what the paragraph is going to be about. Question 5. What does each of these quotations from text B suggest about on-screen entertainment? So here we want to look at the quotations from text B and think about what they are suggesting to us about on-screen entertainment. So the first one, limitless choice. Now, if you didn't know what limitless means, you can have a look in a dictionary and you would see that it means without any limits or boundaries. So to explain that, you can say that there's an infinite range. There's no limits, no boundaries. You can choose from anything. You've got an unlimited choice. And then binge watching box sets. Well, binge watching in the dictionary is to watch multiple videos, episodes of a TV show in one sitting or over a short period of time. So the answer here would be viewing lots of episodes back to back. So it's really useful to use your dictionary to answer this question. Question 6. Text B includes both facts and opinions. Which one of these statements is a fact? So here we're looking at text B and we need to know the difference between a fact and an opinion. So we need to identify one of the below statements that is a fact. So let's go through them all. A, people should appreciate that we live in a digital age. Now, is this a fact or an opinion? Well, a fact is something that can be proven, and an opinion is what somebody thinks that we can disagree with. So this little phrase here, people should, that indicates that it's an opinion. We could disagree that people should appreciate this. We could say, well, people should really return to a traditional way of living. So we can disagree with it, that makes it an opinion. Social media prevents us from pursuing our own interests. Well, that's another opinion because we can disagree with that as well. We could say, well, social media does help us to pursue our interests. If we're interested in art, for example, then social media could give us lots of inspiration. C, people spend too much time in front of screens. That's another opinion, and the reason that we know this is we can disagree with this. We can disagree, we can say, well, people aren't spending enough time in front of screens. They should be engaging with the new digital age that we live in. And then finally, social media enables people to communicate across the world. Can we disagree with this? Well, no, we can't disagree. So that is a fact. We can prove that. We know that if we go on a social media platform, then we can communicate with people on the other side of the world. Question 7. Give the name of the report in text B that tells you how long people spend on their phones. And then we need to find the organisational feature used in text B that we use to identify this report. So to start with, we're looking at text B, and we need to find a name of a report that tells you how long young people spend on their phones. And then once we've found the name of the report, we need to say which organisational feature is used to identify it. So if we have a quick look, we can see that the average person in the UK spends 1 day a week online, and young people spend 4 hours a day on their phones. So this little 1 here, this little number 1, shows us that there's going to be a footnote at the bottom, a source that we can go to confirm this information. And down here we see that the report is called A Decade of Digital Dependency. So a decade of digital dependency is the correct answer, and we used a footnote, that's a type of organisational feature, to identify this report. Question 8. Using text B, identify 2 ways using screens can help children and young people with their learning, and then identify that 2 ways using screens can have a negative effect on children and young people's learning. So focusing on text B here, and we want to find ways that screens can help and have a negative effect on learning specifically among young people. So if we have a look at the text, we can see that e-learning makes education accessible to everyone everywhere. So education is made more available through screens, and Anthony also says that teenagers can enhance their creativity by spending time on computers and smartphones, and then finally it can also improve their communication skills. Okay, and then the negatives. Well, Anne-Marie tells us about some negatives here. She says that screen time can lead to lack of exercise and create health risks like obesity. She also says that children's behaviour in school can be affected by violence on TV, and too much screen time can delay language development, so that's a negative that can hinder learning. And then she moves on to say that it prevents people from engaging face-to-face, and social media reduces the time that young people can read, so that's definitely affecting their education there. So the student here has correctly identified 2 positives, that 2 ways that screens can help children and young people with learning, enhancing creativity and making learning accessible, and 2 negatives, affecting children's behaviour and reducing time for reading. Question 9. Using text-D, give 2 quotations that suggest reducing screen time can be difficult. So here we want to look at text-C and find 2 quotations from the text that suggest that reducing screen time is difficult. It's tricky to get away from the screen. So if we have a little look at the text, we can see that in the first 2 sentences it suggested that people are completely dependent on their screens, that they spend so much time in front of them that they might not have enough time to pursue other hobbies and interests. And then if we have a look at the end of the first paragraph, it suggested that most people say they might struggle to go 24 hours without connecting to the internet. So that's, again, suggesting that people are going to struggle without their screens. They're going to find it difficult to reduce their screen time. And then finally, this quote here, no pain, no gain. So suggesting strategies to reduce technology use, and it requires pain, it requires difficulty to do so. So in the text, the student has identified these quotations. They might struggle to go for 24 hours without connecting to the internet, and no pain, no gain. And these are really great quotations to illustrate that reducing screen time can be difficult. Question 10. Using text C, identify 2 language features used to advise readers on how to reduce device use. Give an example to support each answer. So here we're looking at text C, and we're using 2 language features that are used to advise readers on how to reduce their device use. So we've got to find 2 language features in the text. Language features include things like similes, metaphors, repetition, rhetorical questions, all sorts of different language features available. So in text C, the students identified that they've used a rhetorical question, so a question that doesn't need to be answered. Are you completely dependent? So that is a correct example of a rhetorical question from the text. And then they've noticed some alliteration in the text as well, and that can be seen in dial down. That double D there, dial down, is an example of alliteration. So 2 language features that have been identified, and 2 quotations have been used to support each answer. Question 11. Which one of these quotations from text C shows that the writer has a negative view of technology use? Okay, so here we have to look at the quotations from text C, and we need to find one of them that shows the writer has a negative view of technology use. So let's have a look at the quotations. The first one, people, especially young people, are watching less traditional TV. Well, that isn't an opinion. It doesn't show a negative view. It's just a fact. It's neutral. Doesn't suggest that technology use is good or bad. B, it's important to keep phones on silent to avoid annoying distractions. Now this is a particularly negative view of technology use. How can we tell? Well, the writer has given their opinion, they've decided what's important, and we can disagree with them about that. We can say that, well, it's important to keep our phones on so that we can be contacted in case of emergencies. And they've used these words here. They've used the term annoying distractions. Now that's obviously very negative. If something's annoying, it's irritating, then it's generally a bad thing. C, viewing a box set rather than one episode of a show is now commonplace. That's another fact. It's not giving an opinion. We can't disagree with that. It's just something that people do now. They watch box sets. D, the availability of different devices means we use them for work and play. Again, that is a fact, not an opinion. It doesn't give a negative view. It's completely neutral. Question 12. You may use a dictionary to answer this question. A, transformed the way people watch. Give one word or phrase to replace transformed that keeps the meaning of this quotation from text A the same. So here we're being told that we can use a dictionary, and we have to replace the word transformed to keep the meaning of the quotation the same. So we have to find the definition of the word transformed and see how the context of this quotation affects the meaning as well. So if we have a look in the dictionary, we can see that transformed means changed in form, appearance, structure, or character. So a really good word to replace transformed would be changed. And then the second part of the question, prohibit devices during meal times. Give one word or phrase to replace prohibit that keeps the meaning the same. So we're going to use our dictionary and find the meaning of the word prohibit, which means to forbid by authority or law. So forbidding something or banning something. So the student has come up with their own words based on the dictionary definition there. Question 13. Compare similar ideas from text A and text C about the effect of using laptops, tablets and mobile phones on the way people behave. In your answer, you should give two similarities from these texts about the effects of using laptops, tablets and mobile phones on the way people behave, and give one quotation from text A and one quotation from text C to support each similarity. So what are we being asked to do in this answer? Well, we need to compare similarities. So we need to read text A and text C and scan the texts for anything about the effect of using laptops, tablets and mobile phones, so using technology, the effect on behaviour, so how people behave. We need to give two similarities. So we're not looking at differences here, just similarities. What is the same in both texts? And then we need to give quotations. So one quotation from text A and one from text C to support each similarity. So if we've got one from text A to support the first similarity and one for the second, and then another one to support the second similarity for both texts. So a total of 4 quotations. So you're going to get 2 marks for identifying similarities and then 4 marks for giving 4 relevant quotations. So now let's have a look at a model answer. Both texts argue that people are watching fewer scheduled TV shows due to the use of laptops, tablets and phones. So here we have started and shown the examiner that we've definitely identified a similarity here using this key phrase, both texts. And we have identified an accurate similarity. So people are watching fewer scheduled TV shows. So that's a change in their behaviour. Then we say that text A states that children are watching far fewer television programmes at the scheduled time of broadcast, while text C states that especially young people are watching less traditional TV. So these are 2 relevant quotations, one from each text, one from text A, one from text C, and they show that people are watching fewer scheduled TV shows. So far fewer television programmes and less traditional TV. Very similar phrases in both texts. But that's the first similarity. We now need another similarity because we've been asked for 2. So both texts we've used again to show that we are comparing. Both texts also argue that this results in people spending more time absorbed in their phones. So that's another similarity that we've noticed, that people spend more time on their phones and they are absorbed in using their phones. Text A says that people are glued to their phones, and text C says that people check their smartphones up to 200 times a day. So if you're glued to your phone, then you are going to be using it often and not wanting to be apart from it. And checking your phone up to 200 times a day equates to the same thing essentially. Being glued to it, being unable to part from it, checking it constantly. So we've effectively answered the question explaining how using laptops, tablets and mobile phones affect people's behaviour. And we've given 2 relevant similarities backed up by 2 quotations for each similarity, for a total of 6 marks. Question 14. Which one of these statements about the language used in text A and B is correct? So here we want to be looking at both text A and text B, and we need to decide which statement about the language use is correct. So there's only one statement that's correct here. Okay, so let's have a look at the language features identified. So we've got similes, first person, direct address, and rule of three. So for this question, we need to know what all of these mean. So to start with, similes is where you describe something as similar to something, like something else. So as cool as a cucumber or shining like the sun. And both texts do not use similes if you have a look and scan through both of them. Both use first person to explain opinions. Well, no, first person is the use of words like I, me, and that's not used in either source. Both use direct address to gain attention. Well, direct address includes words like you, your, talks directly to the reader, and that's not used in the texts either. And finally, both use rule of three to emphasise points. So both of them do use rule of three. Rule of three is where you make a list of 3 things in a row. If we have a look at texts A and B, let's see if we can spot any use of the rule of three. So in text A, we've got a phone, laptop or tablet. That's 3 things in a list together. And in text B, we have music, films and YouTube. So a list of 3 things in a row. And they have been used in order to emphasise the points that they are making. Question 15. You are doing a project on the effect of technology on relationships. Identify one piece of evidence from each of the 3 texts which shows technology can have a negative effect on relationships with family and friends. So here we're looking for a piece of evidence from each text. So 3 pieces of evidence overall, one from text A, one from B and one from C, which shows that technology can have a negative effect on relationships with family and friends. So only looking at negative effects, downsides, bad things on relationships with family and friends specifically. So a quotation from text A is unhappy about the impact of these changes on family life. So here we've got a negative, unhappy, not positive at all, and we've got family life mentioned there. So that is a negative effect on relationships with family and friends. Text B can cause problems with friendships. Problems, another negative, and we're talking about friends here, friendships. And finally, text C, too engrossed in our phones to have a conversation at meal times. So we've got technology mentioned here, and it's presented as a negative thing, a bad thing. It's too much, too engrossed in our phones to have a conversation at meal times. Presumably, we're having our meals with friends and family. So that quotation there shows that there is a negative effect on relationships with family and friends.